Maybe you're like me in that, when you were forming your goals either for this year or last year, you had someone tell you, or you just kind of always assumed that in order to accomplish them, you need to, make sure you tell people about it, make sure you're held accountable and that people know about it and they're asking you about it to make sure you're still doing it, and use that as like a way of motivating yourself forward. And then you're innocently browsing the interwebs and you come across a video like this. And if you're anything like me, you're just kind of like, I am very confused because it's like, I just heard two complete opposite things, and the one I totally believed was true, and this one's maybe coming from a YouTuber that I respect a lot, and it's just like, what is going on here? I mean, are they both right? Is one right and the other one's wrong? Are they both wrong? I really want to dig down to like the core, like why? Like, okay, that's really, really interesting if that's true, but I want to know why it's true, because if I'm doing something, I usually would like to know why I'm doing it or not doing it. And on the surface, everybody mostly said the same thing. They said that if you tell people your goals, then you'll be less motivated to complete them. It's like, okay, it's really interesting that the popular majority kind of says basically the same thing. Why? So I kept reading a whole bunch of case studies and blog posts and articles and book segments from neuroscientists and all this stuff. And I found a common thread through all of them. That common thread was dopamine. For those of you unaware, dopamine is a very, very powerful drug. Dopamine specializes in the manifestation of our desires. We feel its presence in excitement, enthusiasm, or the desire to find meaning in something. When your phone dings and you're curious to check it out, that's dopamine at work. Or when you suddenly get hit with an urge to decipher black hole theory or scale Mount Everest, or push your limits to the max, that's dopamine. And here's the critical thing about dopamine is it plays a very specific role in keeping you motivated and attentive to your goal. In other words, we feel good when we work towards achieving both, our small and large goals. The attainment of the object of our desires, that's basically a fancy way of saying when you accomplish your goal, our brain releases dopamine, which makes us feel really good. Consequently, the opposite is true as well, and the frustration of our desires causes our brains to cut off that supply, increasing things like anxiety or fear, and can very heavily lead to procrastination. You may have heard of the do something principle, which basically says if you're feeling lazy or like you're procrastinating or unmotivated, just pick something really small to do, just anything, just something that you can accomplish. And basically that's what this is it when you do that, you feel a sense of satisfaction, and that dopamine helps increase your mood, and it helps increase your motivation to move on and do other things. And I don't know about anybody else, but I personally get very, very excited when I start finding stuff like this, because like this is so much more than just someone's personal experience of like, oh, I did this and this happened. I don't really know why, but this is just what happened. Like, okay, that's cool, and sometimes we have to go off of that, but like I enjoy finding things like this that are measurable and that you can track. To me, it just makes more sense, and it's more clear. So after I dug in and figured out, okay, here's what dopamine is and does, and how it motivates us, and all these, it does a lot, honestly. The puzzle pieces started to fit together a little bit better. So here's what's happening inside of our super complicated, awesome minds when we talk about our goals. There's something called the intention/behavior gap. Now, this is the gap between what we intend to do and what we actually do. And announcing your goals seems to widen that gap. Now let's rewind a little bit to when you decide that you want to achieve this goal. And when you do this, your body begins preparing itself for that dopamine hit. This anticipation and sense of suspense, along with the little wins and the dopamine rewards that you get as you work towards your goal and accomplishing smaller steps towards the bigger one, that is in essence what drives you to accomplish your goal. So everything that I mentioned before, that is how it's supposed to happen, right? You set a goal, you accomplish it, you get the reward, feels awesome. That pushes you on to set an even bigger goal, accomplish bigger and greater things. Now, if we short circuit that by telling someone or by spreading it all around, what happens when we do that is the support and the positivity that we gain off of other people's reactions, we're getting a fake sense of satisfaction that's supposed to be reserved till when we actually accomplish it. In other words, talking about your goal is tricking your brain into releasing a little bit of that dopamine and giving you that sense of satisfaction, even though you did absolutely nothing for it. And even though you didn't actually accomplish it, all you did was talk about it. And physically, get this, like physically, you reduce that drive to help you achieve that. You cheat yourself out of the accomplishment. And you literally do this chemically inside of your brain. And here's the thing, after you come down from that fake sense of accomplishment, getting back into that motivation and pushing yourself is gonna be so much harder because chemically you've reduced that motivation. And the more we do this, the worse it becomes. Eventually, it'll just be easier and it'll seem more rewarding to just tell people about it versus actually going and doing the thing you said you would actually do. And I'm sure you've seen this where people bounce from goal to goal, from this one accomplishment here to another one over here. They're gonna do this and then this is gonna happen. And at the end of the year, they're gonna be able to do this. And they never actually, they're squirrely. Like they never actually just nail something down and like hammer it out because they've gotten used to getting that fake sense of accomplishment instead of looking forward to the end result and preserving that. And I just think it's cool how as you work towards your goal, like that sense of accomplishment and you know the dopamine will continue to drive you with each like minor accomplishment that you make towards that goal, because that's you becoming that person that is capable of accomplishing that goal. And like yeah, that's where that intrinsic motivation side of things comes in, where it's like you want to become that person, like you actually want to have the character of someone who's capable of accomplishing that goal, not just accomplish it for the social status of it or just for the goal's sake, but it's like it's more than that. You're becoming a person who's capable of accomplishing that. And I just think that's so cool. And that's why telling someone your goals, especially if it's like a really, really big goal where you're gonna need all the motivation you can get, can really, really reduce your drive and the resources that your brain is giving you. You're probably like, man, this is kind of lonely. Like, can't I tell anybody? You know, like surely there's some good in this. Well, I did a little bit of research on that as well. And in some cases, absolutely. There are cases where it is going to be more beneficial for you to enlist the support and the help and the accountability of someone else. And that benefit's going to outweigh the risk of gaining that fake sense of accomplishment and losing that motivation. And the key thing that I came across on this portion of it is that you have to care about the opinion of the person you're asking. And that differs a little bit from the other side of things, where you're just telling a person just to get their reaction versus telling them because it's like, hey, like, what about this? And what about this? It's not for the sense of accomplishment. It's about like helping you move towards that. And in those cases, the support, accountability, and advice that person can give will outweigh the costs associated with revealing your goals and reducing your brain's limited resources. So if you've gotten to the end of this video and you want to do some of your own research on this, I'll put some links down in the description of places that you can start. These are the places that I started at, and they're very, very helpful. Very lots of reading, but really good stuff. Also, if you just really find that you're still not accomplishing your goals for some reason and you just can't nail it down, it could be that you're forming your goals incorrectly. And I would love to just like dive into that right now, but unfortunately I'm out of time. So I'm gonna have to steer you to this video, which will thoroughly describe all of that and hopefully give you a better picture on how to make goals that you can accomplish.